Welcome to EmpowerU. I'm Amy Stevens. You may have heard Pastor Steve's podcast where we had a conversation about public policy engagement or civic engagement. You know, COVID changed a lot of things in our community, and this is where the road really exploded in membership and where people began to get engaged. And so Pastor Steve came to me and said, hey, would you consider volunteering to help lead this effort? We have all kinds of views in our church, diverse views. And really, how do we make sense of that? How do we move forward? People are exhausted, a lot of people angry, some just trying to raise their kids. How do we stay engaged? And I'm convinced it's through big, important little things that you and I can do every day. And that's what you're going to hear on these podcasts. You're going to hear from people in the community, school board members. You're going to hear from people that work in the pro-life space. You're going to hear from legislators, people that are going to talk to us about what their lives are really like, what their jobs are really like, and actually how we can make a difference and or support them. And so that is the hope for Pastor Steve. That's the hope that I have, and we look forward to engaging with you. Hi, this is Amy Stevens. We're back with EmpowerU, and I am joined today by a wonderful dear friend and colleague, Diane Ferraro, who is the CEO of the pro-life ministry, Save the Storks. Diane, welcome.
Thank you, Amy. What a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
It's so exciting to be with you on this podcast.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Share more about what we're doing.
Well, I'm excited about storks. I want to say I have been around many a pro-life ministry. I have respect for the work that we have to do. But one of the things that so has attracted me to Storks and where Storks is going is the idea that Diane and some of the people that have joined Save the Storks, they didn't have their whole life in a nonprofit ministry. They didn't wake up and say, okay, I'm called to do this. They were believers working in the secular field of global jewelry, global luxury jewelry. One thing I love about that is they completely understand the idea of customer service, customer first. What do we need? How do we think out of the box, right? I had not heard this in many a year being at pro-life events, and I went, this is something I really am intrigued. And there's so much really about. There's so many life ministries. We have a great thing in Colorado Springs. I mean, we have a lot of strong ministries, Life Network, and just a number of other people. But what has attracted me to this has been how you're approaching things. And particularly, I want to hear, how did you get to Save the Storks? How did you get there? I met you in D.C., and I was blown away by what I saw. And how funny, we share the same hairdresser. That's how you meet. That's how people...
Plug for Shirley, right?
That's how, we met through our hairdresser. She said, oh, you need to meet Diane. And then she would tell Diane, oh, you need to meet Amy. And so here we are. I want to hear how you got with Storks.
Yeah, Amy, thanks again. So
Sure.
My story actually begins as a child. So I was adopted as a baby. I was adopted in Orange County, California. In fact, on my birth certificate, my name is Baby Girl Martinez because the birth mother who chose life for me, she was married to a gentleman, his last name was Martinez, and they decided not to name me because they knew adoption was their plan. They were married, they had 4 little boys at the time, but she had a one-night stand. It was the 60s, so for anyone watching that's, saying, oh, we would never do that. The 60s, everything happened in droves.
And 70s.
Yeah, and 70s. So she went out to a bar, had a one-night stand with a musician, and found out she was pregnant, and she knew the baby was not her husband's. And in an effort to really save her marriage, she decided to drive to Mexico to abort me.
Wow.
So this was 1966, and abortion was not legal at that time in California. So she went with another friend who was in an unplanned pregnancy. They drove south about 90 minutes, 2 hours. And by the time she got to that clinic, she decided not to abort me. And I did not know that story until I started working at Save the Storks, and I shared my testimony. I think it was the video that they recorded when we met in D.C.
Yeah.
She watched that one night, and she said, I have something to tell you. So that profoundly impacted me, but that was after I was already at Storks. I grew up in a living home. Again, adoption was just part of my DNA. Yes. That was part of my identity. I was so proud to be adopted. my parents made me feel very loved. My adopted mom died when I was 8 years old.
Oh.
And so I really was without a mom, and I always wondered, like, would my mom remember my birthday? And so I'd always thought about that, but always was so grateful that she did have me. And it wasn't until I was 26 that I met her.
Wow.
And I learned a little bit about my story, and a little bit's come out here and there. But I had always considered myself to be pro-life. And we both grew up in Orange County as well. And I grew up about 2 miles from Disneyland, so the happiest place on earth. But on the way to one of my part-time jobs on Catella Avenue,
Yes.
I would drive by a clinic that there were protesters outside. They had the pictures of the baby parts, and they had a bullhorn, and they were screaming at these women going into the clinic. And as a 16, 17-year-old teenager, all I could think was, there's probably friends from my school that are going there. And these people who were so well-meaning on the streets protesting, they were actually scaring the women into the comfort of Planned Parenthood, where it was probably peaceful, and they said, you're doing the right thing. And I had never really done much in terms of support the pro-life movement until I was involved in the foster care community. I was a volunteer in California, and I volunteered at a pregnancy center in Pasadena, California. And that was an eye-opener, because I realized, there are options for women. They strategically had a location on Lake Avenue, and it was about a half mile from Planned Parenthood. The challenge was they had a big neon sign that said open, free pregnancy test, but it brought some women in.
Of course it would.
It did,
right?
But again, having a marketing background, working in retail, working most of my career with brand experience.
An incredible marketer and brand
very
management.
kind.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think I knew at this pregnancy center, like, they weren't really attracting women in the way that maybe they could be.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
And by the way, during your time, I was working in the abortion industry, right?
Right.
Where people aplenty were in the waiting room, and where it was great pay.
Yeah,
You could, it was great pay and gorgeous offices, and you just don't need counseling. You can just come right over
rush them
here,
in, right?
rush them in, rush them out. Just, I mean, it's so...
The rushing part is what gets me, and that's when I learned about Save the Storks in 2018, I think, and joined as a marketing director here.
Right.
And what I loved about Save the Storks as a ministry was it wasn't about rushing women. It was about educating women. It was about letting women know that they were loved and that they were cared for. And they had a choice, and that choice didn't have to be abortion. And that was the first time I heard choice used in a way that wasn't the narration of the left. It was something that Save the Storks was using with, just complete love, and letting women know, look, we know you have this option. We know that you are pregnant, that you don't want that baby, but we want to give you another option. And that's where the mobile medical units came into play. And I thought, what is this organization called Save the Storks?
Right.
I thought the name was clever, but I thought, is this for real?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought the same thing.
And when I met the people, based here in Colorado Springs, national organization. At the time, we had around 40 mobile medical clinics. Now, 5 years later, we have 95 on the road in 33 states. And
I'd never heard of that either.
Yeah,
I'd never heard of a mobile medical. But, one thing Diane and I have been talking about is this concept that, yes, we have volunteers, and yes, there are pregnancy centers that do noble work throughout the United States. But the idea is pregnancy testing, the idea of finding out, doesn't just happen between the hours of 9 and 4 p.m. And the thing I love about these medical units is the idea that, you start at 4, you can go to midnight. Right? You could literally, in a way, be like an Uber to say, great, you found out you think you're pregnant. We can verify that. We can get some counseling here. I just love that idea, concept.
And one thing I did not realize was on the mobile medical clinics, they're given the pregnancy test, which is medical grade, and then they have an ultrasound, which is free. And the women are able to hear the baby's heartbeat and see the baby on a large. We have a huge screen in these mobile medical clinics. And what I found out was these women go to Planned Parenthood for the free pregnancy test, and then they're sold, on abortion. When they have the ultrasound, they turn off the volume and they turn the screen away so the woman can't see the baby. And I thought, if they are all about women's health care,
right,
and they are about true women's choice. Why are they afraid to let her hear that heartbeat? Why?
Nothing to see here. No,
Yes.
no, nothing.
And
right.
we had a coworker just last Friday. We had her 16-year-old daughter call Planned Parenthood just for a little, secret
Just to
shopper.
see.
That's what we do in marketing. We do
Right.
secret shoppers.
Right.
This woman didn't even ask 16-year-old girl, and she sounded younger on the
Right.
call. Didn't ask her what her mental state was. What's your condition? How are you feeling about this? What put you in this position? You know what they said? Well, if you don't have insurance, we'll get you on, state aid.
Right, state aid, right, Medicaid.
I think it was $680 for an abortion. We can do a chemical abortion or a surgical abortion. Do you want to come in tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday? Less than 24 hours.
Right.
And you don't have to tell your mom anything.
Again.
So if this young girl had any kind of suicide ideation, or if it was a date rape, they didn't even ask those questions. It was like, come on in, this is the cost, we'll get you in and out.
Wow.
Holy moly. They even told her, if you come in with for the abortion pill, which is now given out like candy, sadly.
Right.
Kids in junior high school are
Right,
selling
with
it on
telehealth,
playgrounds.
supposed telehealth, where literally I could be sitting, like this and say, I'm 6 weeks.
And no ultrasound.
And no one,
So
to tell you.
How's that healthcare?
Right.
And where's the science, right? There's no science behind
Exactly.
that. But this young lady was told, if you can drive yourself, if you want to come in, we'll give you a little bag with your abortion pills. Or if you want to do the surgical abortion, you just need someone to drive you. But again, you don't have to tell your mom.
Right. Right.
It would be harder for me to make an appointment to get a filling.
Oh, please.
They would have asked me
Please.
20 questions before they would have hung up.
Exactly.
Yet to abort your baby, it was...
Or me at Walgreens trying to get a prescription filled.
I mean, it was
tell you.
literally like DoorDash. It was so sad.
It's just...
so sad.
But that is the state Colorado finds itself in. I mean, we are an abortion destination. There has been millions of dollars given for such, right?
Yes.
And our governor proudly just says, hey, we're an abortion destination state.
Right.
Which makes, in my mind, the whole criticalness of having something like a mobile medical van available, it'd be great if we could just get one, right? I mean, never mind 2 or 3, throughout the state, particularly around campuses or other areas where, someone, you generally get the idea of where people are calling from. But I mean, in Denver alone, right?
Yeah, they're flying into Denver Airport.
Yeah.
Women are getting $4,000 from their employers.
Right.
They're flying in from Texas, Oklahoma, you name it. They're flying into Denver Airport, and there is actually a brand experience manager from Planned Parenthood who's greeting these women. It's basically like they have a first-class vacation. They have their hotel booked, list of restaurants. Oh, and by the way, the abortion appointment is at this time on this day.
Talk about your navigation.
And the
you don't
state
have to think of
is
things.
profiting from it.
Oh, yeah.
Profiting.
Right.
And the sad thing is, and the contradiction here is I saw in the news a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about all the immigrants coming through.
Right.
And the mayor of Denver, bless his heart, we wish him well, we pray for him. But he said, we need help. We need federal funding to help with these immigrants and cover the cost. But I'm like, yet you're taking money,
right,
$4,000 a shot to bring women in to abort their babies.
And
but
our
then,
tax dollars.
Our
now,
tax dollars,
which
yes.
I just don't even think, I mean,
Yes.
this last session, unreal, right?
Yeah, it was unreal what we heard when we were at the state capitol.
So for those who may or may not know, there was a bill this past session, a Senate Bill 190, 23-190, that really is trying to close down pregnancy centers and really by gag rule and intimidation, not have you say the word abortion pill reversal, which really, let's be clear, that is progesterone therapy. I have a son through in vitro. I had to take progesterone. Women who are prone to miscarriage take progesterone. Doctors prescribe progesterone in a number of different ways to help women keep a pregnancy, first of all. But what they want to do under deceptive marketing practices is make an outlaw the use of that to, if a young girl, let's take the 16-year-old girl, right? And she takes her first abortion pill and then goes, oh my gosh, what did I do? I don't want to do this, right? And so she's frantically looking to where she can go to reverse that, right? That's really what this is really about. What this law would do is say, sorry, you've taken your pill. Sorry, we're not here to save your baby, or if you've had a change of mind. And by the way, working even within the abortion industry, well, you would see people change their mind all the time, right? They would take their birth control pills, and then they would get in an argument with their boyfriend and dramatically, as some teenage years or whatever, throw them out the window. And then they'd come back pregnant because, I made up with my boyfriend, right? Make up sex. And then, boom, you're pregnant. And we saw changing of minds all the time. But now this issue of choice really isn't choice. It's really a gag rule. And I think we've got a number of free speech issues, but they're serious. They're serious about shutting it down. What they're going to try to do is use the medical board, the nursing board, the pharmaceutical board as the heavy hand of law to try to, so doctors, people who are brave, who might or even be in an ER. Right. Girls show up in an ER. I took this pill. I took mifepristone. I want to reverse. What kind of position does that put doctors in?
Right.
It's just terrible.
It's terrible. And, doctors are called to save human lives.
Right.
And what we've heard is if a woman does go to the emergency room and she changed her mind or, she's bleeding for whatever reason because of that pill, she's told to tell the doctor on staff in ER that she's miscarrying. She's not even to tell them that she took the abortion pill. So they're being told to lie.
Right.
So this poor woman who, 20 years ago, if you go into an abortion clinic,
right,
you can say, the abortionist gave you that abortion. Now, what these women are going to feel, what they're going to have on their hearts and minds forever, is that they gave themselves the abortion.
Right.
How is that treating women with love and equality?
Right.
You're putting this horrible burden on a woman who's already, no woman, I don't believe any woman wakes up and says, wow, I hope I'm pregnant today because I really want to have an abortion.
Right.
That it's a last resort for women.
Right.
It's something that they feel like they're not ready to be a mom for whatever reason. And they feel desperate. And it's also what society's been telling them. And many of these girls, it's not just their generation, it's, our generations.
Right.
We've been told since we were young, an abortion's okay, it just takes care of the problem, right? That's what feminism is. That's what
empowerment.
Empowerment.
Having your career.
Yeah, get your career, go to college. So these young girls, they're probably third generation thinking that abortion's okay. But now they're taking the pill and they're basically their own abortionist.
Right.
And we talk to people because we have to think as parents, even Christian parents, think about your daughter coming home from college. She's afraid. She's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to face my parents? I'm pregnant.
Right.
She's going to take that abortion pill in the bathroom upstairs while mom's making the turkey dinner and all the fixings.
Right.
And she's going to have this horrible guilt on her shoulders and isn't going to be able to talk to anyone. And if this woman is already prone to depression,
right,
or has any kind of, just mental health challenges, which so many people do nowadays. It's a crazy world we live in. If she can't go to her mom and dad, what are her chances at life? She might take her own life because of this decision she made.
You know what is so odd about that? I mean, someone would go, Diane, you're scaremongering. Again, how many, you're the fear-based. You are the fearful. And yet we sat in a hearing to hear if taxpayers didn't pay for this, people would kill themselves. Right? Got to do that. Got to pay for it. They'll kill themselves. But never mind if you said, how does this already affect the mental health of what's going on? I mean, we have so many kids right now over the age, well, really even over 15, on mental health issues, right? This burden is only growing more. I want to switch that to then another outreach. You have two outreaches within Save the Storks that I love. First is for every woman, right? And then also your newest one, Dare to be a Dad, which I took a look at your video the other day and just went, wow. I sent it to my son. I thought, wow. But so talk about that.
Yeah, so Save the Storks, a few years ago, we partnered with Matt Hammett. Matt Hammett is lead singer of the band Sanctus Real. He's won Dove Awards, Grammy nominations. Many of you probably know him from his song Lead Me, that beautiful song that makes me cry every time about a man who just wants to step up for his wife and kids. And Matt just had it on his heart that young men who are accompanying their girlfriends to it might be Planned Parenthood, it might be a pregnancy center.
Sure.
When she finds out she's pregnant, oftentimes the dads are told, hey, wait in the car or just drop her off. You know, we've been at Planned Parenthoods with sidewalk advocates where the men are not allowed to go in. We hear from men across the country that they are not allowed to go into Planned Parenthood. Now, pregnancy centers, they are allowed to walk in. In fact, Life, you know, you mentioned Life Network, fantastic pregnancy center here in Colorado Springs. They encourage dads to come in. They have a beautiful program for dads that teach them how to be a father. And we know that 79% of the time when dad speaks up, when he speaks up for that preborn child and tells his girlfriend, hey, I'm going to be here for you. I want to be that dad for the child. 79% of the time that woman will choose life for her baby.
Wow.
And Matt, when he started to hear these statistics, you know, he had a situation with his third child where he was diagnosed in the womb with half of a heart, and it was a life-threatening illness, and they were told to abort. And he felt like, man, as a married man who, you know, I have a career, you know, I have a beautiful wife, you know, we have a roof over our head. What about that man who maybe lives with his parents, or, you know, maybe he's in his college dorm. He can't afford a child, you know, what is he going to think? So he wrote this booklet, Dare to Be a Dad, and there's online curriculum as well. Yeah. And it really is letting a young man know, like, you were created for this. You know, yes, the baby is probably coming sooner than you planned, you know, and it gets a little bit into like how, you know, ideally God wants us to wait until marriage to have sex, but in this case, it's too late, right? That train left the station. And it's really a 7-day curriculum that's encouraging a young man to learn what it takes to be a dad. And it's not rocket science, right? They were really built for this. Yes. And again, they've been told by society and by culture, and, you know, popular culture especially, that a lot of men don't have a voice. And this is going to give men a voice. And we just encourage, you know, men in youth groups even, you know, it could be teenagers.
Yeah, we could do it here. I mean, we can get something like this going.
The Road has a fantastic new fatherhood program.
They have a new fatherhood program. I think there's so much we can do to uplift.
Yeah, and Matt Hammett is just like, the videos will be on YouVersion soon. Yeah. So it's a 7-day devotion. So if you know a young man in your life, we feel that, you know, in order for that woman to be equipped to choose life for her baby, you know, we need dad involved as well. So let's give men a voice, right?
Exactly.
Let's be on the outside.
Isn't that actually what choice should be about, right?
Right.
And again, I applaud this just because we have, I mean, I think I sent you stats the other day on just single moms and the loneliness and the lack of fatherhood, the lack of male presence in a life, right, for a young boy. It's desperate, and we should do better. We can do better. Now, tell me about For Every Woman then. What's going on there?
For Every Woman is something that we just both connected over. Yes. So we know that a woman, when she's Googling, I think I'm pregnant, it's 2 a.m, she's on her phone, she's terrified. Planned Parenthood will spend money. We've heard up to $400,000 a week in some cases to reach that woman. To reach that, she could be 16, she could be 12, she could be 35. Planned Parenthood is just taking over the internet. Again, spending, you know, almost $500,000 a week with abortion messaging is tragic.
That's why they don't want you on the internet.
They don't. No.
They want to take you off under deceptive advertising.
Yeah, not just us. The great pregnancy centers around the country, any pro-life organization, they want us off. So For Every Woman is really something that we've built to lift up the entire pro-life movement. Yes. Life-affirming services. So that woman, again, when it's 2 a.m. and she's afraid, she's seeing those ads that are paid ads. She's also seeing organic content that will let her know, hey, you have other options. And it's just like my birth mom. It's giving her time to pause, to click some different sites, find life-affirming organizations in her local town where she can go, no pressure, right? No cost. Find out, you know, if housing's her challenge and you're afraid, we've got housing partners. If it's health insurance, we've got partners for that. It might be daycare. Man, if I could say one thing on this podcast today, I would love for churches to consider opening your doors, having daycare Monday through Friday. Yeah. Have a sliding scale. The moms who can afford to pay the full price, they will help offset the cost for that single mom who can't afford daycare. Daycare's a big it's one of the main reasons why a woman will abort her child. Yet we have these empty buildings across America Monday through Friday.
We have empty schools.
Schools, right. And I really believe that as Christians, we would help pay for that, right? Yeah. We could help. That could be an offering above our tithes. We could help cover the insurance, the teachers, the daycare providers. whatever is needed at churches. Imagine if 2 or 3 churches in each community, collaborate and said, we're going to have a community daycare.
Right.
And we're going to be pouring into the community. I was in Denver last week, and there was an LGBTQ church, one of those beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
And not here to judge, but they had a daycare for the community. And it was very public. And I thought, man, if they're doing it, why aren't the evangelical churches doing it? Why aren't the Catholic churches having daycares for the kids?
Right.
Anyway, that would give single moms and just young families who don't have a lot of money that opportunity to choose life and know we've got daycare taken care of. Job training, education. If a mom says, well, I really wanted to finish up high school, this baby's going to hamper that. Or we've heard from women who go to grad school. They can easily afford a baby, but they feel that baby will cramp their style.
Yes.
Let's figure out a way to make sure that she can have her baby and her master's degree.
Right.
We have a campaign called My Baby, My Career, and the coolest thing is it's our staff that came up with that idea. We had 5 young moms pregnant at the same time, and they were all kind of wondering, how are we going to do this? They all joined together and said, if we're having this, question here at Save the Storks where we're pro-family and kids are always sitting in Zoom calls with their babies on their laps, moms and dads.
Right.
What are moms doing who work for Amazon in their customer service center, or, maybe they're...
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon will pay for your abortion. Surely would they pay for your daycare?
Right.
Or really, someone should ask.
Let that mom work from home. And, and why not?
Right.
People are so impactful and effective working from home. So, so for every woman is this incredible just collaboration of other ministries around, not just ministries, there's some, just government entities that, are providing services that women don't know about, that we're really getting the word out. The awesome thing is, For Every Woman is now coming to life because we have a mobile medical clinic. So something Save the Storks has done, in terms of our life-saving vehicle for the last 11 years.
Yes.
We have this beautiful new mobile medical clinic. It not only has basically an OBGYN office on one side, we have a counseling room on the other side.
Wow.
It's beautiful. It'll be here in Denver next week.
It's great. That is so great.
And
I love that.
yes, and we had some social workers at an event, and we had one of the senior social workers said, "Where was this when I was 19?"
Yeah.
Just broke your heart.
Right, it does.
Because we really want to recognize that for a woman, it's not just about the baby she's carrying, she's afraid, how am I going to be a mother? There's so many other components to
it's an ecosystem.
The decision.
It really is.
We need to make sure she's mentally healthy, that we have her physical needs met, that we have that community support. And that's what For Every Woman is. It's in the mobile clinic's really bringing our website to life.
Yes.
So we're not just preaching and telling women what to do, and then leaving her after she has the baby, right? Well, good luck. Here's a box of diapers.
You chose life. Way to go. Right.
No, we're going to be with her. There's an organization called Life of a Single Mom. They take care of moms until the children are 18 and even into college. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah, they've offered scholarships to some of our moms in our pregnancy centers. Because a lot of moms who are single moms in the church, they feel a little bit lost, right? MOPS is usually on a weekday.
Yes,
they have to go to work.
Right.
There might not be a single mom's Bible study, right?
Right. Or something.
So they feel a little out of place. So Life of a Single Mom is really partnering with churches to make sure that single moms feel like church is home for them.
You also partner with Every Mother's Advocate.
Oh, fabulous organization.
Yes, I'm really impressed by them.
Every Mother's Advocate is so cool. It was created by Charlie. It's Billy Graham's great-granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
And she had this vision, this idea in college in her dorm room that women who lose their children to foster care, it's not intentional, but they don't have any support system. So Every Mother's Advocate, they partner with social workers. And the social workers come to them saying, hey, we've got a mom who needs a little extra help. Right. Maybe she needs help with her finances so she can figure out how to keep her apartment. She might need emotional support or a mentor so she can get out of an abusive relationship. Wow. A lot of times these are the reasons women lose their children to foster care. It's not because they're hurting their children.
Well, poverty, huge.
It's poverty. It's poverty and maybe
neglect.
Neglect.
And,
so Every Mother's Advocate is interceding, and as of last year, I think they had 260 women who were able to parent their children, and
so they weren't taken by the system. Yes,
and the system is
the system.
The social workers are thrilled because they don't want. They would. I'm sure social workers would
prefer
love to be
have
out
that
of a
child
job
at home.
Right,
Yeah, they would.
Right.
They would have preferred that.
So again, there's so many incredible organizations out there that are life affirming.
Yes.
And we're just trying to bring them all together and create awareness.
Yes. In closing, and because this is part of EmpowerU, I've been impressed with the number of young people you have on staff and engaged. How can our next generations get engaged with Save the Storks and other ministries like this?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Well, we have a network of volunteers at Save the Storks. So you can do anything from blogging to helping with their social media.
Great.
You can volunteer at an event. You can be an advocate for a mom. You can set up a table at your college campus. You can volunteer on one of our mobile clinics. We have over 700 volunteers in our database now, but we're looking to grow that. We hear from volunteers and young people is, sometimes 12 or 13-year-olds, they can do something.
Right.
We do have a young staff. We have folks, 22 years old, we have young dads, young moms.
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I applaud you. I applaud all the ministries that are really working so hard here. And there are ways to get involved. There are ways to be empowered. This is one of them. The other thing is we've got Dare to be a Dad. There's a lot going on. And this may be the avenue that you feel prompted to get engaged in. That's what EmpowerU is all about. And they can look it up, Save the Stork, right?
SaveTheStorks.com.
.com, and take advantage. Diane, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.